in Professor Prof Utomi. Professor, I want you to please to set the tone for the deeper meaning of this handshake and why we need to have this unity at this moment. Thank you very much, Professor.
Well, thank you so very much. I want to thank Dr. Isawa Dogo for setting a pretty good tone for the path that I think is profitable for us to travel. We come from a history in which actors with very short-term limited interests often tend to try and exploit situations in the perception that it will advance those interests. Sadly for us, they have often prevented us from working together in a way that will bring progress to all. I watch with great fascination and admiration the youth of Nigeria. And they came from north, south, east, and west. They sang together, they marched together, they held up the national anthem, and they were doing great, sending a powerful message to the world like has not been done before. I can speak to this because I have been in the middle of youth and not so young attempts to raise our voices in Nigeria. I started as a 17-year-old student, and I have gone through a whole life of struggle trying to do it. On none of those occasions or efforts have I seen the kind of unity of purpose from the youth of our country as I saw in the last couple of weeks, and I was in a state of grand celebration. I even wrote in Nong Demitis, Lord, now you can take your servant away, I've seen the future. Only for typical traditional forces of darkness to begin to try to penetrate this initiative, this movement. I think that we have a duty as thoughtful elders, as thoughtful people, to point our country to the path of right, to remind those people who have made it their way to abort things that are done to advance the collective good of all by bringing in these primordial kinds of sentiments that get in the way of things being done properly for the good of everybody. I agree totally with Dr. Isawa Dogo that I think that the purpose that was advanced in the methodic Gandhi type non-violent approach that the youth took was a phenomenal gift to our country, a great learning point for all of us to go forward from. It is sad that we have come to a point where those types of traditional sewers of hate and manipulators of ethnic divides have begun the usual thing. Interestingly, just this morning, I had the privilege of a conversation with Dr. Usman Bugaje, and he was talking about a conference that will try to put ethnicity where it belongs into this world. Because really, truly, where does ethnicity belong into this world? We speak often, many of us go back to Greek philosophers to look at society and to identify three kinds of groups of people in society. Those they call idiots in their philosophy of those days, not an insult, but people who just think only of themselves. And at a slightly higher level, those who they call tribesmen, who look at only people who share a certain parochial interest, blood or the other. And the third layer they call citizens. These are people who share a sense of a common humanity. Now, we have been gifted with a group of young people who say they are citizens. And indeed, they are citizens, not only of Nigeria, but of the world. They are global citizens. In some of my remarks, warning people in public authority that not only are these young people citizens, but they are global citizens. And they have the capacity and access to technology to cripple any public authority in Nigeria from wherever in the world they may be located. That this is a time to pull back from those traditional ways of trying to gain access to power by dividing so as to rule. And those days are gone past. We are in a new era. And so whatever we can do as enlightened elders to send a clear message through the length and breadth of this country, from Maiduguri to Lagos, from Yenagoa to Sokoto, that the young people of Nigeria are speaking to fundamental problems of why Nigeria has not made progress in spite of the giftings from God, endowments that are abundant in the land, because a small group of people driven by instant gratification always turn to religion, always turn to ethnicity to prevent the collective will, which would lead to the progress of all. And so to get a just, peaceful, and thriving society, these young people have decided to take on the issues. And we must not allow those who want to profit from dividing the people to get in the way. And so I'm thankful that we have on this call people from across the spectrum in our country, people who are leaders of conscience, people who are leaders of thought, and people who are respected in their various communities, so that collectively we can say to the Nigerian people, this is not a North-South matter. This is not a community to that community matter. The so-called hoodlums that have been introduced into the process, that have disrupted their peaceful protests, and I wonder which Nigerians we should call hoodlums. These are Nigerians who are the deprived, the wretched of the earth, who have been used by politicians and created into gangs, and they are now called hoodlums. And in the middle of this kind of situation of national unity in which the youth have galvanized the heart of our nation, these people have come again to try and stoke division through these gangs they created that we call hoodlums. We must stop them. We must allow the youth of our country to raise their voices, that we might reform this country so that the progress that our country deserves can come to all of us, so that well-being can be the song of the guy in Afikpo, as it can be the song of the guy in deep down Taraba State, and the song of the guy in Ogbomoso as the song of the guy in Kafanchan. We must, as elders, speak clearly to the unacceptable inclination to use thugs, to use or even abuse the state to sow divisions. Power accumulated by such deceit on which the lives of innocents are being lost can only bring perpetual infamy to those who tread that track. We must change course now. And I thank you for having me on this call.
Ah, la, 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 la.